My name is Don Raleigh. I'm the AVP for Facilities and Operations. I've been here for about 21 years now. I started out as just on the grounds team and kind of worked my way up along the way, and now I'm over all facilities. So my door is always open as well if you have any questions about processes, people, concerns, things like that. We kind of call it Manager Row out there as you come in. All the managers and directors are located down that road. Feel free to pop in. My door is open. You're available to come in at any time and just talk to us.
Good morning. So just a reminder, you guys do get paid by the hour, so this is a profitable training whether you get anything out of it or not. We're going to be here for just a little while this morning covering things that we think it's important for you to know. You have in front of you a folder. You also have an agenda for the day. I wanted to make sure that you guys had a bullet point version of what we're covering today. We're going to try to put everything on the slide so you can see it. We're going to try to say everything that we think is important and take that handout with you, make notes on it as you need to, so that we're going to throw a lot at you. We want to help you retain it as best we can. So in your folder, there are first of all two checklists. There is a blue checklist, sort of dark blue, there you go. That's to help you stay organized with all the things that we know you need to complete and before you can work. And there is, I guess, the pink checklist. What color would you call that? Salmon, if you're, not into pink. That is an official form. That is your clearance form. You will need to hand that form in, complete and signed. So pay attention to our steps as we're going through that. That is your ticket to being an official-oriented employee. Some other paperwork in there. If you are a new employee, some of you are definitely new employees. Who has not worked at IWU before? Okay. If you've not worked at IWU before, you will need to fill out the white paperwork there. There is a tax form. There's a direct deposit form for new employees. You're going to need to fill that out and get it to the payroll office. Your supervisor will help you with that process. You will also need to provide identification when you do that. 2 forms of ID, official government ID like a birth certificate or a passport or your social security card or your driver's license. You'll need that in order to prove who you are so that we can pay you, so we can deduct taxes and all of that. So that's important. It's only important for new employees. If you've been paid by the university before, you are okay. Speaking of how we're going to get you paid, we now do electronic timekeeping. If you've worked for us before, you may or may not have done that. But all of your official time is entered online at the student portal. But we do punch cards here at facilities to keep track of our time, to get an official timestamp. So you probably punched in this morning. Back behind me, down the hall by the restrooms, there is a room with some lockers in it. That's where the time card is, time clock is. Time cards live in a rack in that room. And we want you to stick the time card under there, punch in when you get here. You'll punch out at lunch. You'll punch in when you come back from lunch, and you'll punch out when you leave for the day. So if you're working morning and afternoon, you'll have at least 4 punches. You don't punch in and out for your break in the morning. That's different, and it's on the clock. You'll be doing your break, in different places. But we want you to enter time onto the computer based upon what's on that card. Don't round it off. Enter the numbers that are actually on there, because we're going to compare them and try to make sure that we've got all the data entered correctly. It is really important, since you're entering your time online, that you do it in a timely fashion. You have to enter that on time, because there's a point at which that gets approved and sent on, and time checks or paychecks get issued, and you're not going to get paid. So check with your supervisor about their schedule. I tell folks who work for me to please enter that on Friday when they leave. Just make that the last thing that you do, and you've got your time card, enter it, and then you've got it done. I believe you can enter those up till noon on Monday, but your supervisor has to have time to look at it and approve it. So, make sure you know that expectation. I was going to try to demonstrate live how to do this, and I still can later if you guys are concerned about it, but that turns into sort of a comedy show with me trying to show you how to do this process that I don't do every day. On the student portal, there is a tutorial for it, and there are plenty of folks in the building currently who have been doing it for the last semester, and they will be a better resource for you than I am. However, we are happy to help you up front. Sally or I can walk you through it. We have 4 computer terminals in the front office that are set aside for time entry that make it kind of quick and easy to get in there and do it. They just do sort of one thing, and it's easier to get in and out. But you can enter from any place. But just remember, you're going to have to enter that time. If you don't work Friday, don't forget that you have to enter time, because you know, we'll have to chase you down on Monday or whatever, make sure we get your time. So we want to pay you. I'm going to skip this. I'm not going to try the electronic time entry, like I say, unless by popular request later if you're worried about it. Paychecks. In your folder, there is a schedule of pay. Paid bi-weekly, that means every 2 weeks. All these pays will be at the end of the week. And paycheck is just a traditional term. It is a misnomer. You will not receive a check. You'll fill out the direct deposit form, and your pay will be directly deposited into your bank account that you've designated. There is a stub that helps you see what hours you got paid for. That's going to be available online at the student portal. So you won't get anything on paper for your pay. Your pay will happen electronically. We can help you find those pay stubs if you want to check them, and you will see the money show up in your bank account on the schedule that's provided. Having said a lot about student payroll, I know you're going to have questions about student payroll going down the line. There's always the, wow, is this my pay rate correct? Is this, you know, should I have gotten overtime? Kim said is the director of student payroll. Her office is upstairs in the Maxwell Center. Her phone number is 2410, so 765-677-2410, and her email is kim.said@inwes. Kim is very good about answering questions. Like I say, Sally or I can help you up front, or Molly can help you, and we can get Kim on the phone and answer your questions. But you are welcome to email Kim with payroll questions, and she is always very good at answering my questions, even when I'm being dense. Parking. You need to get here somehow. If you drive to get here, there is a map. It is white. It is in the folder. It shows where you can park. Basically, as you're coming in to the parking lot out front, further north towards the Dollar General, there's parking for our fleet, like the big white vans and trailers. Further south towards the grounds bay and 49th Street, there is parking for employees out front in the middle here. It's probably where you parked. It probably made sense to you when you looked at it, but please do park in the designated areas. Don't park around back where it gets in the way of deliveries and people getting to fuel pumps and that kind of thing. So park out there. There is a map for your convenience. If you want to ride your bike to work, we love that you want to ride your bike. Please don't bring the bike into the building. We get crowded fast. The warehouse turns into bike parking, and that's no good. So there are bike racks just out here past the auto bay outside. Bring your own lock if you want to lock that up. I do encourage you to lock it. We don't think that we have a theft problem here in the building, but a lot of people walk by on 49th Street, and we don't want to tempt them with your bicycle. So bike racks out there, bring a lock, leave them outside. That covers driving for you to get to work. If you need to drive a university vehicle for your job, if we need you to drive, you will need to be approved by IWU and by our insurance company as a driver. Now, if you worked fall semester or spring semester this year for us and you were driving a vehicle, then you are currently approved and you don't need to do anything. If you haven't worked since last year, we'd like you to fill out the form again and be approved. That is online. In your folder, there's a green paper that has some information about how to do it. It's done on the student portal, on the transportation page. It's called the Driver Application Questionnaire. You'll fill it out online. It requires some information like your driver's license number that you'll need your wallet for, and it will ask for permission to check your motor vehicle records to confirm your driving record for the insurance company. You need to log in on the computer as yourself to fill out that form. The form is a little bit difficult. So I know you're logging into the portal page as yourself, but it's important that before that you sit down at that computer, log it out, and log in as yourself. Otherwise the form does something a little bit funny for us. So again, we can help you up front with that. Please do fill it out immediately when you get a chance and wait until you hear that you're approved before you can operate an IWU vehicle. If you guys were all on time at work this morning and sitting around waiting for us to get ready, which is great, if you can't make it to work or if you can't make it on time, please call us. That communication is really important. We know that you sometimes have things that are more important than work, or you're not feeling well, or you have something come up for school, but we need to know how to plan and we need to know who to expect, and that's just a good professional skill to learn as early as possible that you need to communicate that. So call us at the front desk, 765-677-2313. That's the number that rings up front where Sally sits. There's a voicemail. We listen to that every morning and learn who's not coming in. So your supervisor may also want you to communicate directly with him, and he may give you a procedure, and that's great, but please call us up front so we can get you on the list of not coming in. That communication is very important. If you brought stuff with you that you care about, there are some lockers in the time clock room. We call it the student prep room. You right through the door from the front office by the restrooms. You'll find the restrooms at some point today, so you should find that room when you're down there. Those lockers, bring your own lock if you want to lock stuff up, and you may reserve that locker just by putting your lock on it. So we're pretty low key on that, and those are available for your use. So that's good. Now, at the back of the building, down this hallway with all of the shops in it, at the very back, conveniently located in the warehouse, is the warehouse office. The warehouse exists to manage all of our materials and supplies and equipment. So all the stuff that we use to get our job done, the warehouse buys it and stocks it. And it's important to check that stuff out from the warehouse for two reasons. First of all, they need to know when they have to reorder stuff. They need to know what the inventory is. And secondly, we want to account for all the materials that we expend against work orders, so we know what jobs that we do cost us, and we know who to charge on campus for the work that we do. So warehouse has a process for that to help you get your materials entered correctly. If you go back there to get stuff, stop in, talk to Vicki and Ellen in the warehouse office and find out what you need to do to get what you're looking for. A lot of times your full-time comrades may do that for you on the jobs that you're doing, but just please remember there is a warehouse process. If you're picking something up, think, how do I sign this out? Now when you're done with those materials, you're going to have stuff to throw away. It's very important that some items not be just thrown in the trash. We have to manage our trash stream so that we are compliant with EPA regulations, so that we're being smart about what the landfill can take, so that we're not wasting money on removing the wrong things, and so that we're not being bad for the rivers and lakes in Grant County. So items that we call universal waste. This isn't hazardous waste, which I think that none of you will be working with, but it's what's called universal waste. It has special rules for how it's disposed of. Things like aerosol cans, they have to be disposed of in a bucket labeled aerosol can disposal. Things like paint, that has a special place it has to go. Used oil, lamps, light bulbs, batteries, alkaline batteries. There is a bin in the warehouse where those are deposited, disposable batteries, ballasts. Basically anything that you look at and you think, hey, this is a chemical, hey, this is something that might be specialized, ask somebody where that goes. We can't have that stuff ending up in our trash can. Also, we can't have it stored in the wrong places. So if you are holding an empty can of paint or an empty aerosol can or a burned out lamp, don't just put it down in a closet because you don't know what to do with it. We're not allowed to store those waste items in storage areas. We have to have them in designated areas for waste. So waste disposal is important. If you're in doubt, ask somebody where that goes before you throw it away. Radio protocol. You guys may get a radio to help you communicate. I didn't bring mine back this morning, but you guys know what it looks like. Things to remember about that. First of all, we're all trying to talk at once sometimes, and that makes it hard to talk. Secondly, there are a lot more people listening to that radio than you might think at first. So remember to, first of all, be polite to all the people who want to talk on the radio. Concise, clear messages so everybody knows what you're saying and you can get off the channel. And those radios are everywhere. People listening include the people you want to talk to, the people you didn't want to talk to, your bosses, customers standing at the front desk who need help, everyone in every office where someone is standing with a radio clipped to their belt, administrators on campus, conference guests who have a problem. So we want to make sure that we're presenting ourselves well on the radio. I hear all the time from people who have heard us say various things on the radio. I'd like those things to be mildly comical and not embarrassing. So keep your frustration off the radio as best as possible. Ask those questions. Also, hang that radio up at the end of the day. Turn it off. Put it on the charger. Otherwise, you will be without communication in the morning, or someone else will be. So radio protocol is very important. How we present ourselves is important. And take that radio away if it causes a problem. Key control, this is my responsibility, and so one that I'm particularly concerned about, but you will probably get keys at least sometimes to do your work. Those university key rings are a large security liability for campus. Bear in mind that those keys which you have to get into one or two rooms to do your work, they probably open everything. They open every student room where you and your friends live on campus. They open every administrative office. They open places that are important. If we lose that key ring, we compromise the security for all of those places, and that is a really big deal. So, as a result, we want to account for every key ring at the end of every day. So there is an electronic key box around the corner out here where we secure key rings. You'll probably, if you need to use keys, you'll get a login for that box, and we'll show you how to use it. If you just use keys occasionally, you may need to have someone sign them out for you. But it's important at the end of the day, when you leave from your shift, that that key ring gets locked back up in the box. We can help you up front if you can't log in, or if it's gotten too late, or if you've forgotten your PIN. But we want to account for those keys and know that we haven't lost them, and we want to make sure that they're locked up. And bear in mind, if you hand your keys off to someone else, you sign them out from the box. It has your name on the timestamp. If those keys are missing or if something happens, I'm going to start looking for you. So you want to make sure you put them back in the box so that you have them signed back in. That protects you, it protects the campus, and it ensures that once a day we've accounted for those keys. Now, if you do misplace your keys, this happens, they get left in a doorknob, they get left in a closet, they get dropped. The really important thing is to let us know right away. Call the front desk, call your supervisor, call us on the radio, make sure that someone hears that you've lost those keys. And we are going to want to mobilize everyone to look for those keys immediately and try to find them. Especially since lost keys often end up in trash cans and places like that, and we don't want them to be gone. We want to know for sure where they went. We will not be mad at you for reporting lost keys. You will be in trouble if you don't report lost keys or if you wait until the next day hoping that they'll turn up. So let us know. If we find them within 5 minutes, we will be very happy. We will not be upset with you for wasting our time. Now, medical information. We hope that you don't get hurt. We hope that you don't have any problems on the job. But if something does happen, we want to make sure that we have your information. That is that yellow page. Helps us with some of your allergies, when you had a tetanus shot, who you want us to contact in case of an emergency. Work on filling that out. It's going to be one of the things we want you to turn in today so that we have that on record so we know what to do. We'll talk more about safety later to ensure that we don't use that form, but we want to have that info on file. Now, when you are injured on the job, even if it's just a minor injury, we need to make sure to report it. Thing to remember here, and the reason that it's important to report it. I know it's embarrassing when you're hurt. I know it seems like it's not a big deal. I know you want to get back to work. But your injury is a workman's comp claim. So it's not just your injury, it's our injury. And we need to make sure that we can document it, that we know what to do with it. You want to make sure that you don't get stuck paying for the medical bills that are related to it. If they happen, you want to make sure that it's a workman's comp claim and that it's all reported. So minor injuries, we're going to report those to the front desk, and we're going to record them in an email to your supervisor so that we know what happened, so that we have a record, so that we can get back to it and document it. More serious injuries, that's anything that needs medical treatment, like going to the health center or going to the emergency room or using the eye wash station. Those need to be reported via a form that is online, and someone at the front desk will want to interview you to get detailed answers for that report. We're going to ask you a lot of questions about what happened. Don't be intimidated by that. You're not in trouble, but we need to make sure that we know what happened and we know how to prevent it in the future and we know how to report it. So injury reporting is very important. All injuries need to be reported, and I've listed near misses as injuries. If you are in a situation where you think, wow, that was close, the ladder fell down, something fell and landed near you, that almost crushed my foot, you have a near miss, we want to change our processes to prevent an injury in that case. You're standing there and your heart's beating fast and you're thinking, hey, I could have been hurt. We want you to report that to, talk to your supervisor about that, or come to the front desk if that's more convenient, so we can document a near miss and know what we can do in the future to prevent it. There is a first aid kit at the front desk. It has things like gauze pads and Band-Aids and hydrocortisone and things you'll need for minor cuts and scrapes. Conveniently is at the front desk, which is where you're going to go to report your injury anyway. So please remember that. That is what I have for general housekeeping stuff. Questions about any of that? All right. So your assignment for this next section is to write down your questions so that you remember them at the end. We have some employee expectations. The only man who has not yet been officially introduced. This is Don Rowley. He is our boss. We work for him, and he's going to tell you what's expected of you as an IWU employee.
As you can see, the title of this is People Are Watching. And especially today with social media, I don't know if you guys follow Overheard at IWU and all this other stuff. People are watching. In this day, not only do they watch, but it's very public. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about how some of the expectations we have as far as you as an employee. You're not just a student anymore, you're an employee of Indiana Wesleyan. And with that comes the fact that you represent IWU now as a professional and as a facilities worker. So you do represent IWU and facilities to internal and external customers. Your internal customers are faculty, staff, and fellow students. External customers could be visitors to the university, which in the summertime, we have up to 15,000 visitors that come through our doors through conference service program. External customers can be vendors. We deal with a lot of different vendors here at facilities, so if you interact with them, we just expect that you do it in a courteous, professional way. Attitude and presentation matter. You know, when you're working with customers, we just ask that you have a great attitude, positive attitude, come with a willingness to work with them and not against them. And perception is reality. And that's kind of a hard one to explain, but just always got to think about whatever you're doing, how is it perceived by the public, and especially with this day and age. A lot of times people don't ask before they post or before they make assumptions and things like that. So I just ask that you think about that. An example would be, let's say you're taking break time and you're out in a public space when you're taking break time, which can happen. You know, if you lay on that couch, somebody walks by, they may not realize or understand that it's your break time, you've earned that and deserve that. They may not ask a question, but what they perceive is that you're on the clock and you're laying down and taking a nap. So we just ask that you think about that. Don't lay down in that public setting. You know, find a place that's appropriate to take a break and think about that. Appearance and attire. Of course, appearance. Again, we want to come across as professional as we can. We do understand you guys are just students, and we don't provide you with a lot of uniform attire. We do provide you with 3 T-shirts, but we do ask certain things. We ask that you not cut off your sleeves, things like that. That's just not a very professional look. We ask that you wear shorts of appropriate length. We just want to send the right message. Jewelry. The handbook on campus is a little more strict than what we follow. We just ask that whatever you do it tastefully, and you don't draw attention to yourself with your jewelry. If for some reason you are working in a setting that jewelry could be a hazard, we might ask you to remove that. I.e. maybe a necklace if you're working on mechanical equipment and it's dangling down. We don't want that necklace to cause moving parts because it could pull you in and be a safety hazard. So we will ask you at times if it's an issue to remove some jewelry. Headphones, I just ask that you work directly with your supervisor on that. There may be times where headphones are perfectly appropriate, but there may be other times where you need to communicate, you need to be able to get your attention quickly, you need to hear what's going on, and at those times, they won't be appropriate. We'll ask you not to use those. So make sure you ask your supervisor before you do that. I think after a couple of weeks or a month or so, you'll know what the right moments are, and we just ask that you follow leadership when you do that. Name tags, we do ask that, especially if you're in buildings. I think student development, if you go up there, they'll print off for you a work badge. And if you're in buildings, faculty, staff, or even we may not know who you are, what you're doing, that you're actually there for official business. So we do ask that you wear those name badges in those instances, and you can get those up to student development, but bring those on a daily basis, because if you don't have that, the people you come across with may not know what you're doing there and such. So make sure you get those name tags and you wear those on a daily basis. How many of you guys have a cell phone? All right. I think you can probably know where I'm going if you are watching. We just want you guys to be respectful of our time. There may be moments where you have to take a phone call, but if it's not break time, it's okay. The phone rings. Look to see what it is, and you kind of know if it's an emergency or not. But if you guys abuse that on our time, we may ask you to leave it back here at the shop. You have adequate time during break times to return calls. But I don't want to have to say you need to leave your phone here. We may use, with your permission, use that as a communication device. I don't know if I can use that to help reposition you or talk to you, communicate to you, and you say that's okay. These guys may do that in the back, but that's totally up to you guys. But if you abuse those, we will ask you guys to leave them at home or in the lockers here at the shop. Break expectations. You do get a nice break in the morning. Our break times are from 9:30 to 10. During that time, I prefer that you come back here to the shop, but different teams do different things. I just ask that break time starts at 9:30, so you don't leave your work site till 9:30. In the past, I think we've been guilty of we'll leave at 5 till, so we're back here at 9:30. I ask that you stay there till 9:30, drive back, and then you're back on the job site at 10 o'clock. That's a half hour that gives you time to commute back and forth and do your thing. Again, that's a great time to make your phone calls, eat a snack, and things like that. So that's break times. Afternoon, we just work from 1 to 4, so there's no break time in the afternoons. If it gets extremely hot, I think your supervision will absolutely let you guys stop for 5-10 minutes or so. They're not going to be that strict. But for the most part, we don't travel back anywhere. We try to take that break right there if there is one. Most times you can work through it. And but if you do, just make it short and brief and move on. Driving is a privilege. It is our #1 complaint, though, of students from campus visitors, the public, faculty, staff on campus. I kind of say, hey, you get paid by the hour, so let's not do the California stop at the stop signs. Let's just stop, look both ways, and move on. I don't want to ever, there's not a job that you guys do, and you'll hear me say this a couple times, there's not a job that you guys are doing that's worth any safety risk. If you feel like you're in danger, you feel like you need to rush through it to get it done, I don't want you guys to do that, if that makes sense. So when you're driving, just be curious, follow the laws. Seatbelts are required on campus. There's public streets on campus. It's not a closed campus, so seatbelts are required. The speed limit on campus is 25 miles per hour. How many of you guys do that? You guys did? I see a couple hands shaking. And if you happen to be working for grounds or another division where you're driving on utility vehicles, the gators and such, they have to follow the same rules. They can't fly through the stop signs. They need to stop, look both ways, and proceed. So we just ask that you guys follow the driving laws and regulations that are out there. And it says on the bottom, I will not hesitate to make an example. Don't lose your driving privilege. We've done that in years past. And typically when we make that example, word spreads pretty quick that we're serious about driving safety. And I am serious about it. It would be, I would have a party if I did not receive a call this summer from the public about somebody complaining about driving. So I just want to put that out there. Stormwater expectations, and we'll have some training about this later, but there are certain things that we need to educate you guys, required by law, by the EPA, to share with you guys. But basically, we just ask you guys to protect what goes down the storm drains. If you're in a paint shop, we never rinse paint down storm drains. If you're in a ground shop, we never wash vehicles or mowers outside where the water will run off in the storm drains. Again, the video we'll watch, the safety video we'll watch later, really goes into better detail. But your shops will also hit that. But I just wanted to hit that because that is a priority for us to communicate that and share that with you. That water goes straight to the river before it gets treated. A lot of people don't realize that. They think it just goes to this magical plant, it gets treated before it goes to the river. It doesn't. If you dump paint down there, it makes it to the river. If you dump oil, you wash a vehicle, whatever's on that vehicle, fertilizers or whatever, hits that storm drain. It's just like a big underground river that makes it to the river. And we don't want to pollute our waterways. We don't want the fish. We don't want to do damage to them or things like that. So we really hit that pretty hard and talk about that here at facilities. Recycling expectations, 2 approaches to this. One is it's the green thing to do. We want to utilize our resources. I think God has given us that mandate to be good stewards of resources, and part of that's recycling. But our other approach is if we send it to landfill, it costs us a lot more money than it does if we recycle it. And that's your tuition dollars. So we just ask that you guys do due diligence when it comes to trash removal, trash pickup. We recycle metal. We've got a metal container in the back. We recycle plastics. We recycle paper. So before you guys throw something away, I want you to think about it. Is there a way to recycle this before we throw out the trash? I think we're going to spend some time now going over our safety policy. If you pull out this violet sheet or purple sheet or something like that, we're just going to read through that kind of word for word. And when we get done with that, I'm just going to see if you have any questions about that. I'm going to ask you to just sign that document for me, just to let us know that you understand it and you've read it and such. But basically, our first statement is all hazards are controllable. I've been here for about 21 years, and I've seen a lot of different accidents throughout my times here, and I can say probably 99.9% of those were due to human error, whether we were rushing through something. For example, that is, let's say I'm lifting up a pretty heavy piece, and instead of calling for help or asking for help, I try to do that myself, and I strain my back. Another example would be not having somebody hold my ladder when I should have somebody hold my ladder, and my ladder slips out. So a lot of different hazards that we come in contact with are really controllable if if we take the time and assess the situation and take the proper precautions. So number one is all hazards are controllable. The next thing is supervisors will discuss specific job hazards with each employee, student, worker, and enforce safe work practices at all times. After you leave here, you'll go to your respective units, and each one of those units have their own hazards associated with their task. And your supervisors, your leads will spend some time going over those hazards and those tasks with you and to help you identify those times where there's specific hazards. If, for example, or by chance that you feel like you haven't been trained in something, but you're asked to perform an act that you're not trained for, I give you guys freedoms to kind of like stop the process and say, I haven't been trained in this. I don't feel like I can do it safely. I don't understand how to do it. But you guys have that freedom to bring that up to your supervisors. They may or may not train you at that moment. They may say, well, let's have somebody else do it, and then they'll hopefully pick it up, that training piece later, so you'll be qualified to do that later. Number three is no employee, student, worker is expected to take unnecessary risk. Kind of just touched base on that. You guys have the ability or the freedom to stop any activity if you don't feel like it's safe. Employees, student, workers should notify their immediate supervisor of an unsafe condition or procedure they encounter in their work. Again, that's that freedom of you guys to stop the process, or even if you see one that you're not in part of, somebody else may be doing, you need to bring it to your supervisor's attention so we can address it. Kind of like Randy's, when he talked about the near misses. We want to evaluate those situations as leadership and see if there's anything we can do differently to not put people in harm's way. Or maybe the process is okay, you just need to have an understanding of education in that process. Supervisor personnel shall act to eliminate all hazards. We need to respond at some point to a concern, and that's our commitment to do that. All injuries will receive immediate first aid. So let's say you get hurt. Your first responsibility is to report that to your supervisor. What I don't want to hear is I don't want to hear that you toughed it out because you were scared for your job or things like that. We want you guys, first and foremost, to receive that aid. We want you guys to see that treatment. Your second responsibility is to report that to up front. A couple reasons. One, we just want to make sure for workman's comp, Randy touched on that earlier, if you don't ever report it, workman's comp is our insurance carrier. If you get hurt on the job, that's Indiana Westland's financial responsibility to take care of you. But if you don't report it, if you wait a couple days, it puts that at risk. We've had people think they're going to tough it out. They don't report it, even a near miss or a pulled muscle or things like that, and 3 or 4 days later it's gotten worse or it's swelled up or they feel like you really need to seek medical treatment. Well, that just makes it a little more difficult when you come 4 days later and you report it at that point. So we just ask that you do that, and that's for your benefit. Along with that is we want to evaluate that situation. Maybe you don't have the right PPE, personal protective equipment. If we put you in a position where you weren't trained for, we want to evaluate that injury. So that's what that's about. Number 7 is every accident must be reported. We've talked about that. And always remember, safety first. I think I've said it earlier, there's not one job on campus that's more important than your safety. So I really want you guys to understand that. So are there any questions about kind of the safety policy? It's pretty straightforward, but yet I think sometimes people either don't understand that that's high priority for us, and sometimes they put themselves in harm's way because they feel like they need to or they don't understand. So any questions? All right, if you can sign that document, we'll pick that up at the end of the session. And if you have any questions later about that, just let me know. After this meeting, we will distribute PPE, personal protective equipment, is what PPE stands for. Basically, the basic PPE that we distribute is going to be a pair of gloves, eye protection, hearing protection. Most jobs that we do, you're going to require that at some point. If there's PPE required beyond that, your teams, your different units, they will distribute that personal protective equipment. The PPE does not replace unsafe work practices, though. Just because you have that hard hat doesn't mean that you walk underneath that tree that they're trimming. Or, I don't know, you drive unsafe just because you've got your seatbelt on. PPE does not replace that. It's just another form of protection that we have. You will be responsible to take care of that PPE. If you lose it, damage it, we will replace it, but we may replace it with PPE that may not be as attractive. You know, your first set of safety glasses they'll be nice looking as far as safety glasses go. But if you don't take care of those, you abuse those, lose those, you know, that second set may be a pair of goggles that are just hot to wear, they're bulky, but you're still expected to wear those. Or we'll just allow you guys, you'll be able to purchase a nice pair from us as well. But just take care of those, that PPE, and keep it around. Injury reporting, we've talked about that a lot already up front. Sally is your go-to person for that. She'll just document that. If you have a near miss or an injury, the first thing she does is send an email out to your supervisor and to me, and that just timestamps the fact that there was some type of injury or near miss that occurred. That way, if workman's comp does come back on us and want to know when it reported, we've got this email that's an absolute timestamp. We know when we send it out. So make sure you report any injuries. We will do an investigation, especially if it's an injury that receives some type of medical treatment. We'll do an investigation. It sounds like a fancy word. We just want to find out what happened, was it preventable, and what can we do in the future moving forward, things like that. Again, you'll receive task-specific training in your different units. But if you are not trained, please don't perform the task. And I just put some examples here because, you know, some of the guys in the back, when they're working, some of them make assumptions that maybe you've already been trained, and they may say, hey, jump on the forklift and let's move that pallet. But if you've not been given training on a forklift or a tractor or bobcat, backhoe, mower, utility vehicles, weed eaters, power tools, electric work, you shouldn't be operating that stuff. And so if you haven't, you just need to say, hey, I haven't received that training yet. I'd love to have it. Love to receive that training, but if you haven't, I just ask that you speak up and not put yourself in a position where you could do damage to yourself or damage to the equipment and such. Any questions about that? That can be kind of an intimidating thing because I think the full-timers can just make some assumptions and put you guys in a position where you feel like you need to do it. But again, I'm giving you permission to stop the process if you're not comfortable with it. Okay? Any questions on that? You know, my job here is just to reinforce we want you guys to end the summer or end May term without injuries. And that's more important to me than any job that you're going to do. Okay? Any questions on that? I think from here we're going to do some video.
We're going to do some mega exciting safety videos.